For many people, DuckTales was a staple of childhood, and for a long time now, we've wanted a comeback. So hold on to your bills because Scrooge McDuck has returned. DuckTales, a reboot. Thanks to Disney XD's new show, your life is about to become like a hurricane. Hi, I'm Cade with Channel Frederator, and we're bringing you 7 facts about the DuckTales reboot. Woo! Back in September 1987, a new animated series aired on the Disney Channel, starting a wave of fun, original shows for the Disney afternoon block. This series was none other than, drumroll please, DuckTales, loosely based off of Carl Barks' Uncle Scrooge comics. It focused on Donald's triplet nephews, Huey, Dewey, and Louie, as they had crazy adventures while living with their wealthy uncle, Scrooge McDuck, while Donald serves in the Navy. The show not only did amazingly well, but it brought on a wave of some of the most dedicated fans who read all the comics, watched all the episodes, and beat every level in the video game. Now, 30 years after the original series began, DuckTales is back. Its return was announced in February of 2015, which gave eager fans 2 years of anticipation before it finally premiered on August 12, 2017 via an hour special, which was on air for 24 hours in a row. Side note, August 12th is my birthday, and it was the best birthday present ever. The rest of the 21-episode season will kick off with 2 new episodes on September 23rd, followed by a new episode coming out every Saturday thereafter. There will also be a second 1-hour special later on. Here's a fun piece of trivia. The 1987 series also premiered on September 23rd back in its day. This reboot starts the story over, sticking closer to the original source material, those great Uncle Scrooge comics, while still keeping the jovial spirit of the original show. Oh, and did you know it's already been renewed for a 2nd season? Now that's what I'm talking about. We already mentioned that the original show garnered a devoted fan base. Even after 30 years, their love remains strong for both the animated TV series and the comics. So it shouldn't come as a surprise that the team working on DuckTales at Disney TV Animation started off as fans of the show. Matt Youngberg, the show's executive producer, stated that fans of the original show will be able to see just how much everyone working on the show loves the original. He went on to say, "Our whole show is infused with that love." As they were developing the series, they realized that it would be a show for fans like themselves, while still managing to bring in a new crowd. Ideally, the goal is to gain new fans of the show that will want to bring back their own version of it in 30 years. With this goal in mind, the crew knew that they wanted their new show to harken back to the old one in a catchy way. And what better way to do that than with a theme song? Fortunately, they were allowed to reuse DuckTales' unforgettable opening song, "Awoo!" written by the talented Mark Mueller. We all know that DuckTales wouldn't feel the same without it, old or new. However, beyond the theme song, the crew also made sure to incorporate other elements of the show into their own version through homages and direct dedications. And their attention to detail is outstanding. Of course, the crew knew that the original DuckTales was inspired by the Uncle Scrooge comics, and they incorporated this element into the reboot not just narratively, but visually. For example, there's a subtle difference between the Scrooge in the books and the Scrooge in the 90s show. Have you caught it? In the issues, Scrooge wears a red robe, and in the original series, he wears a blue coat. Wanting to acknowledge the comics, the art department drew Uncle Scrooge wearing a red robe in the reboot for this new version. Now that's a good callback. Speaking of the art design, you may have noticed that the show has a sleek, stylistic look to it. Similar to the new Mickey shorts, though definitely cleaner, the new look feels more comic booky and graphic. In fact, some fans immediately went to the internet to say that they felt the new style evoked the visual feeling of the DuckTales comics from Gladstone. As far as our opinion goes, we love this new style. It definitely appeals to our inner childhood. But when the art department was first deciding on a look, there were a few other ideas tossed around. One of these is artist David Alvarez's take on the series. Alvarez worked on this series in its early stages before there was a crew change and suggested a different design for the series. In his proposed style, all the ducks would have blue in the white of their eyes like they do in the original series. Their irises would be pie-shaped, which was indicative of Carl Barks' art, and the overall look borrowed round, cartoony elements from the Topolino comics. Alvarez also made sure to take different features from various iterations of the characters and combine them into a single form for each duck. For example, for Scrooge, he added gray hair tufts from the Scrooge McDuck and Money Short, the color scheme of the original comics, and yellow gloves from Scrooge's look in 1967. While Alvarez's style was passed on, he feels that the art style the production went with is awesome. If you want to know who to thank for the final look, look no further than the show's art director, Sean Jimenez, and his team. Jimenez previously worked on another Disney XD show that some of you may have heard of. Does Gravity Falls ring a bell? One of the key changes regarding the DuckTales reboot is the insertion of Donald Duck as a main character, and this makes me so happy. At the 2017 D23 Expo, after a fan asked why Donald is now a regular on the show and not away in the Navy, story editor Frank Angonez replied that it's due to the thematic element of the show. To make the new DuckTales feel fresh and relatable, the creators wanted to approach it appropriately. They realized that, like themselves, many fans of the original now have children of their own and would share the world of Duckburg with them. So they immediately knew what their angle for the reboot would be: family. This is also one of the reasons why Huey, Dewey, and Louie now have distinguishable personalities. It added to what makes up a well-rounded family and lets each character learn something from another. Kind of like how our siblings taught us important life lessons, more or less. Not to mention mention that it also helps the audience have someone to identify with. And Gomez mentioned that when he first watched the show as a 7-year-old, he naturally identified with the triplets. But now that he's a parent, he leans more toward Donald since they both are trying to help raise children. The story actually naturally lends itself to the family-centric theme. It starts with Huey, Dewey, and Louie learning that they are related to the billionaire, old-time adventurer Scrooge McDuck. After moving into his manor, they must come together to learn how to live together while discovering their family roots at the same time. They are the new modern family. Because there was already so much original source material, the crew joked that DuckTales was basically a public trust. The characters, the adventures, and the spirit of the show belonged to everyone who enjoyed it. In that way, fans of the show, old and new, come together as one big family. So what we're saying is, there was no way to escape that family dynamic, and as fans, we're proud to be a part of it. As per the original series, the core of the show follows an adventure of week structure. However, that doesn't mean that the show will be solely episodic. The production team was impressed at how the original DuckTales would have 5-part episode arcs, something that no other animated show would even risk doing. Taking a cue from that, the crew decided to implement their own version of a continuous story. Each season plans to have an overall mystery that will act as an arc over the course of the episodes. Without giving too much away, the first season particularly uncovers why Scrooge and Donald originally went their separate ways. Dun dun dun! And much like how the original show occasionally touched upon educational lessons, such as economics, I mean, how could it not? Scrooge is obsessed with his money. Well, the new show will also teach some lessons. An example that Youngberg gave was that Scrooge is going to try to teach Louie how to be productive. But that doesn't mean that episodes won't be fun. Thanks to the adventures of the gang, there will never be a dull moment in the show. You might learn about economics, but you'll learn about economics with giant robots present. You know, normal life stuff. Another reason that everyone has been so excited for DuckTales is because of the amazing voice actors that were cast to play these iconic characters. In December 2016, Disney XD's YouTube channel dropped a video introducing their talent. So let's take a look at some of the main cast. The legendary Tony Anselmo will reprise his role as Donald Duck, who he's voiced since 1986. And yes, that does mean that he voiced Donald in the original DuckTales as well. Unfortunately, Alan Young, who voiced Scrooge McDuck in the original show, passed away in May 2016, so a replacement needed to be found. But who else could live up to the role of Uncle Scrooge in that magnificent Scottish accent? Well, it looks like the crew found their billionaire's voice in David Tennant, best known for his role as the 10th Doctor in Doctor Who. As for Huey, Dewey, and Louie, Danny Pudi, Ben Schwartz, and Bobby Moynihan will play them respectively. Kate Micucci was cast as the spunky Webby, and Tokes Olagundaye will provide her voice for the stern Mrs. Beakley. Finally, Beck Bennett managed to crash himself into the role for Launchpad. Impressed by the actors after they were cast, and Gomez went back and rewrote the first 2 episodes. Guess he was just as excited as we were for this cast. The team didn't hold back on minor characters, finding them talent that is on par with the main cast. Take Gizmo Duck, the beloved hero of Duckburg. Having grown up in Miami, Angones always liked the idea of a Latin superhero and saw this as a good opportunity to explore that avenue. So who did he call up for the role? None other than Lin-Manuel Miranda, or as a friend of ours would like to say, Lin Man-Crush Miranda. Lin was so excited about the role, he couldn't keep himself from singing the Moon theme. We'd love to hear that. And with the announcement that the terror that flaps in the night, aka Darkwing Duck, will be making an appearance in the new DuckTales, there's a good chance that Jim Cummings will make a return to the beloved role. It almost feels like everyone and anyone you want to be involved with the show is. So who would you like to hear voice a role on the show? Let us know in the comments below. We already stated that the original series was loosely based off of the Uncle Scrooge comics, and that it's not surprising that DuckTales has sort of a comic-y hand-drawn flair about it. Eventually, the 90s series inspired its own comic series. Most notable of these are the Gladstone comics that came out between 1988 and 1990, the Disney Comics titles during 1990 and 1991, and the 2011 revival published by Boom Studios. You've probably guessed it by now, but we have good news. DuckTales is getting comics again. These new comics will be published by IDW, written by Joe Caramagna and illustrated by Luca Usai and Gianfranco Florio. The comics began releasing in July of 2017. Well, sort of. Issue number 0 was released in July, but if you're counting from number 1 onward, then you're looking at a release date of September 3rd. This gives you 10 days to pump on the series before the first episode comes out. Just like how DuckTales was born from comics, it's making way for new ones. Pretty cool if you ask us. Once again, I'm Cade, and thanks for discovering 7 facts about the DuckTales reboot with us. Which fact did you find the most interesting? Is there something we left out? Let us know in the comments below. We drop new videos every single day, so make sure to subscribe and tell us what show you want facts on next. And don't forget to click the bell icon to become part of our ever-growing notification squad. Remember, Frederator loves you. Awoo!